I'm back with Keith Fear from Balloons Over the Rainbow. He is one of 70 pilots participating in the Forest Park balloon race coming up in September. So I have to ask you, I mean, when does it occur to you in the span of your life that you want to be a pilot for a balloon?
Well, in my case, it started shortly after high school. I dated a girl whose sister dated a pilot, and him and I joked one day that someday he'd teach me how to fly, and I had my first lesson the next day. And that was 25, 27 years ago. And I've been full of hot air ever since. So.
And how do you make, a career out of it, really? Mm-hmm. I mean, you have a business that does it. And how do you have the capital to invest to purchase a balloon? Is it just like you would run any other business?
It is. It's just like any other business. It is capital intensive. Balloons aren't cheap. And you can't just run down to the local store and buy one. And there's a lot of maintenance that goes into maintaining a balloon. It's not just, every once in a while having it inspected. We go through a pretty rigorous process to make sure that they're well maintained and meet all the FAA requirements and everything, day in and day out.
So when was your first, when was your first balloon ride or race when you were actually the pilot?
1989, I believe. I think it was 89. That was my first time.
And what is it like when you're up? You said 5,000 feet in the air sometimes. What is that like? Are you ever terrified?
No, I've never been really terrified in a balloon. The higher up you get, the closer you find yourself moving to the center of the basket, because you kind of look over the side and realize just how high up that really is. But in the normal span of a balloon flight in the 1,000 to 3,000 foot range, you don't even realize it. Your brain kind of loses that frame of reference, so it doesn't bother you at all.
And what kind of training actually goes into all of this to be a pilot?
It's all FAA mandated training. There is a complete practical test standards that the FAA requires us to follow to train pilots. We do flight instruction as well. So you have to have a certain number of hours in the balloon, certain number of hours with an instructor. You have to take a written test, an oral test, a practical test, a solo flight, and a pre-solo test. The list is pretty long.
And have you ever had an instance of starting somewhere? You mentioned before in our first interview that you waited an hour and a half once to be picked up, mm-hmm. But have you ever had a race or just been on a flight where you ended up somewhere completely different?
That happens quite a bit. In ballooning, you always take off, again, knowing that there's a plan, but also recognizing that Mother Nature's not going to listen. She's going to do what she wants, and that plan's going to change. You like to take off knowing where you're going to go, but recognizing that you may have to think on your feet and just find somewhere else to land on the way.
Okay, and we're looking at a photo. Tell me, do you have a name for that's your balloon that we're looking at? Do you have a name for her?
That balloon actually is called Skyship 1.
Skyship 1.
It's a fun balloon to fly. It'll carry a pilot and 3 passengers comfortably. That is a balloon called Ascension. That's an 8-passenger balloon.
And that's another one of your balloons?
Yeah, that's another one of mine. We fly passenger rides in that one all the time.
And so where do you keep these in your?
We actually have a garage at the house that we store all of our equipment at.
Okay.
And we have a store in High Ridge that we run the business out of.
And so what's the overall kind of maintenance for the balloons?
You have annual inspections that you have to perform. If you fly more than 100 hours a year on any balloon, you also have to re-inspect it at that point. So our balloons on average get inspected at least twice a year, according to the FAA mm-hmm. standards. Then we do our own inspections on them about every 30 days. We also go through and check the fabric more frequently than that. You'll do small repairs, every now and then for little, sticks that'll come mm-hmm. through the fabric or whatever. You have to keep the wicker moist because it is a water weed. So if they dry out, they'll get brittle. The baskets will get brittle, so you keep them moist.
But people know that you are staying on top of this.
Yes.
So that when you were that
it's a lot of work.
Air. Well, if you want to see Keith, I don't know if you'll see Keith, but you will see his balloon at the Great Forest Park Balloon Race, September 20th through 21st in Forest Park. This is one of St. Louis's, famous and beloved traditions, and it's absolutely wonderful. The balloon glow, that's on Friday night, the night before. before, and then the race itself, it's really, really fascinating and fun to see. And if you want more information, just head to the website, greatforestparkballoonrace.com, and I guess we will look for you, look for you in the air with our binoculars.
There you go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for being here. And next up on STL TV Live, we'll get an update from the St. Louis Agency on Training and Employment.